What if the worst night of your life led to your greatest salvation? Jennifer never imagined Christmas would end with her being thrown into the snow, pregnant and accused of betrayal. One desperate text to the wrong number changes everything when it reaches Seo Do-yoon, a Korean mafia boss who's spent years building walls around his heart. This is a story of false accusations, redemptive love, and the family we choose when blood abandons us. Hello, fam. Welcome back to Afro-Korean Heartbeat Stories. If you love emotional roller coasters with interracial romance and mafia redemption, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe now because this story will break your heart before it heals it. Don't forget to tell us where you're watching from. Thank you so much for your support. The slap echoed through the mansion's grand living room like a gunshot. Jennifer's head snapped to the side, her cheek burning, her vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall. She tasted copper on her tongue where her teeth had caught the inside of her mouth. Her hands moved instinctively to protect the small bump beneath her cream cardigan, cradling the life growing inside her as if her touch alone could shield it from the hatred radiating through the room. "You will not speak to my son that way, you lying whore." Marlene Holbrook's voice was ice-wrapped in venom. Jennifer's mother-in-law stood before her, hand still raised, chest heaving with righteous fury. "Did you really think we wouldn't find out?" Jennifer's lips trembled as she forced words past the tightness in her throat. "Find out what? I haven't done anything wrong. Please, Callum, tell your mother she's mistaken." But Callum didn't move from his position near the towering Christmas tree, its white lights casting harsh shadows across his face. The man who'd whispered promises into her stomach just weeks ago now looked at her with something worse than anger. Disgust. His silence cut deeper than his mother's hand ever could. "Tell her." Yvette Holbrook laughed from the leather sofa, the sound sharp and cruel. Callum's sister crossed her legs, smoothing her designer dress with deliberate slowness. Why would he defend the help? That's all you've ever been, Jennifer. Charity work that got out of hand. Jennifer's knees weakened. She'd stood in this room 1,000 times over the past year, always feeling small, always feeling watched, but never like this. Never like prey. The staff members lined against the walls, their eyes averted, but their ears open, bearing witness to her destruction. She recognized Eunice Rowe, the housekeeper who'd sometimes smiled at her in the hallways, now staring at the floor with her jaw clenched tight. "I love my husband." Jennifer's voice cracked. "I love this family. That baby is Callum's child. Our child. Shut your mouth." Edgar Holbrook spoke for the first time, his deep voice rumbling from the wingback chair where he sat like a king on a throne. Jennifer's father-in-law was a man who built empires with handshakes and destroyed lives with phone calls. He didn't need to raise his voice to terrify her. "You don't get to say my son's name anymore." A woman stepped forward from the shadows near the fireplace, and Jennifer's stomach dropped. Meredith Sloan. Callum's ex-fiancée. The woman whose engagement photos still hung in the East Wing because Marlene refused to take them down. Meredith moved with predatory grace, her red dress clinging to her curves, her blonde hair perfect despite the late hour. "I didn't want to be the one to tell them." Meredith's voice dripped with false sympathy. "But I couldn't let you destroy Callum's life with your lies." She held up her phone, the screen glowing with an image Jennifer couldn't see from where she stood. September 14th. Ring any bells? Jennifer shook her head, confusion mixing with mounting terror. "What are you talking about?" "The Lenox Hotel. Room 412. Meredith turned the phone toward the family and Marlene gasped. Even Edgar leaned forward in his chair. "You were seen entering with a man. Staying for 3 hours. Leaving disheveled." "That's not true." Jennifer's voice rose, panic finally breaking through her shock. "I've never been to the Lenox Hotel. I don't even know where that is." You're calling me a liar? Meredith's mask of sympathy cracked, revealing the hatred underneath. There are photos, Jennifer. Time-stamped photos. And before you claim it's someone who looks like you, let me save you the embarrassment. She swiped to another image. That's the necklace Callum gave you for your birthday. The one with your initials. You're wearing it in the photo. Jennifer's hand flew to her throat, to the delicate gold chain that hung there. Her mind raced. She'd worn it every day since July, but she'd never been to any hotel with anyone. This was impossible. This was insane. Let me see those photos. Jennifer reached out, but Marlene stepped between them. You'll see nothing. You've seen enough, taken enough, lied enough. Marlene's face was flushed, her carefully applied makeup cracking at the edges. Did you think you could trap my son with a bastard child? Did you think your pretty brown skin and your sob story would buy you a place in this family forever? The racial slur hung in the air like poison. Jennifer had endured a year of subtle jabs, of comments about her hair, her accent, her Nigerian food that was too spicy, too ethnic, too other. But this was different. This was a blade aimed directly at her heart. The baby is Callum's. Jennifer turned to her husband, pleading now, dignity abandoned. You know it is. You were there. You held me. You said you wanted this baby. You said you loved me. Callum finally looked at her, really looked at her, and Jennifer saw nothing in his eyes. No love. No doubt. Just cold certainty. I was in London the entire month of September. His voice was flat, rehearsed. My father needed me for the merger negotiations. I didn't come home once. The travel records prove it. But you did. Jennifer's voice broke. You came home for 3 days mid-month. You said you missed me. We went to that little Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, the one with the candles on every table. You remember. You have to remember. I was in London. Callum repeated the words like a mantra. I have witnesses. Business associates. Hotel records. I was never in New York that month. Dr. Alaric Boone cleared his throat from near the doorway, and Jennifer had forgotten he was even there. The family physician stepped forward, a manila folder in his hands, his expression grave. Mrs. Holbrook, I'm sorry to be the one to confirm this, but the medical evidence supports what the family is saying. He opened the folder, revealing ultrasound images and documents covered in medical terminology. Based on your last ultrasound 3 days ago, the fetal measurements indicate a conception date in early to mid-September. I've checked and rechecked. There's no mistake. Jennifer's world tilted. Her last ultrasound had been routine, happy even. Dr. Boone had smiled and told her everything looked perfect. He'd let her hear the heartbeat, strong and steady. He'd never mentioned any discrepancy with dates. But I told you. Jennifer's voice was barely audible now. I told you, Callum, and I had been trying for months before September. The baby could have been conceived in August or even July. The measurements don't lie. Dr. Boone's tone was almost kind, which made it worse. I understand this is difficult, but science is science. The fetus is measuring at 16 weeks and 4 days. That places conception around September 10th, give or take 3 days. So between September 7th and September 13th. Meredith's smile was triumphant. And you were photographed at the Lenox Hotel with another man on September 14th. How convenient. I wasn't. Jennifer was shaking now, her whole body trembling like a leaf in a storm. I swear on everything I wasn't. Those photos are fake. They have to be fake. Callum, please, you know me. You know I would never do that. I thought I knew you. Callum's words were quiet, but they landed like blows. I thought you were different. Humble. Grateful. Real. He laughed, the sound bitter. My mother warned me. She said you were after the money, the status. I defended you. I told her you loved me for me. I do love you. Jennifer reached for him, but Marlene grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. Don't you touch him. Don't you dare touch him with your filthy hands. Mom, please. Jennifer tried a different tactic, appealing to the woman who'd never once called her daughter. I know we've had our differences, but I would never betray this family. That baby is your grandchild. Your blood. That thing inside you is not my blood. Marlene's face contorted with rage. It's some street rat spawn that you're trying to pass off as a Holbrook. Did you really think we're that stupid? That we wouldn't investigate? That we wouldn't find out the truth? Yvette stood from the sofa, walking over to examine Jennifer like she was something displayed in a museum. I have to admit, I almost admired the audacity. Sleeping around while playing the devoted wife. But you got sloppy. You got caught. I didn't sleep with anyone. Jennifer's voice rose to a shout, the first time she'd raised her voice in this house. I have been faithful. I have been loyal. I have done everything asked of me. I learned your recipes. I wore the clothes your mother chose. I went to the church you demanded. I gave up my friends because you said they weren't appropriate. I became what you wanted me to be. You became a liar. Edgar rose from his chair, his height imposing even at 65. And liars have no place in this family. Meredith pulled out another sheet of paper from her designer handbag. Since we're laying everything out, let's talk about your little Nigerian tradition of sending money home every month. $12,000 over the past year. Where did you think that money came from? Callum's generosity. Jennifer's blood ran cold. She had been sending money home to her mother, to her younger siblings who needed school fees and medical care. Callum had known. He'd said it was fine. He'd said family helped family. That's called theft in this country. Meredith continued, clearly enjoying herself. Taking money from your husband's accounts without permission. For all we know, you've been planning this scam from the beginning. Get pregnant by some random man, claim it's Callum's, secure your place in the family, and keep draining the accounts. Callum gave me permission. Jennifer's voice was hoarse from shouting. He signed the transfer forms himself. He met my mother on video call. He knows why I send money home. I signed those forms thinking you were my wife. Callum spoke again, his voice hard. Thinking the baby was mine. Thinking you were honest. I was wrong about all of it. Jennifer felt something break inside her chest, something fundamental and irreparable. The man she'd married, the man she loved, the man whose child she was carrying, believed these lies without question. He'd chosen his family's narrative over her truth without even a moment of doubt. So what now? Jennifer asked, her voice hollow. You've accused me. You've humiliated me in front of your staff. What do you want from me? We want you gone. Marlene released Jennifer's wrist like it burned her. We want you out of this house, out of our lives, and out of New York if you know what's good for you. This is my home. Jennifer looked around the room, at the Christmas decorations she'd hung that morning, at the presents under the tree she'd wrapped, at the life she'd built over the past year. I'm Callum's wife. Legally. That means something. It means nothing. Edgar pulled a document from inside his suit jacket. These are divorce papers. You'll sign them tonight. In exchange, we won't press charges for the theft or fraud. You'll walk away with nothing, but at least you'll walk away free. Jennifer stared at the papers, the words blurring together. Irreconcilable differences. Dissolution of marriage. Waiver of all claims to property and assets. It was already filled out, already prepared. They'd planned this. This wasn't a spontaneous discovery. This was an orchestrated execution. And if I don't sign? Then we destroy you. Marlene's smile was cold. We have lawyers who will drag you through court for years. We have connections in immigration. We have the power to make sure you never work in this city again. We will paint you as a con artist, a fraud, a whore who tried to trap a wealthy man with a pregnancy scam. Your name will be mud. Your reputation will be ashes. And that baby you're carrying will grow up knowing their mother was a lying, cheating criminal. Jennifer's hand pressed harder against her stomach, feeling the small flutter of movement that had started just last week. Her baby. Her innocent baby who'd done nothing wrong, who deserved better than this nightmare. I need time to think. You have no time. Edgar dropped the papers on the coffee table. Sign now or we call the police. Your choice is very simple. Jennifer's mind raced through her options. She had no money of her own. No family in America. Her visa was dependent on her marriage. Her friend Sadia was in Chicago visiting family for the holidays. She had nowhere to go, no one to call, no way to fight back against the Holbrook fortune and influence. Can I at least get my things? My clothes? My phone? Your phone is Holbrook property. Yvette held up Jennifer's iPhone, the rose gold case glinting in the Christmas lights. Paid for by my brother. Along with every piece of clothing on your back, every item in your room, every single thing you've touched in this house. The coat in the hallway closet. Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. The black one. It was mine before I married Callum. And my grandmother's bracelet in the jewelry box upstairs. Please. It's all I have left of her. Marlene looked to Edgar, who nodded curtly. Fine. Eunice, get her coat and the bracelet. Nothing else. The housekeeper moved quickly, disappearing up the stairs. Jennifer stood in the center of the room, swaying slightly, feeling like she might collapse at any moment. The baby kicked, a tiny reminder that she wasn't alone, that she had to stay strong. Eunice returned with the coat, worn and thin, and a small velvet box. She handed them to Jennifer without meeting her eyes, but Jennifer thought she saw the woman's hand shake slightly. Sign the papers. Edgar pushed them toward her along with a pen. Jennifer picked up the pen, her hand trembling so badly she could barely hold it. She thought about refusing, about fighting, about screaming the truth until anyone believed her. But she looked at their faces, at the united front of Holbrook power and privilege, and she knew the truth didn't matter. It had never mattered. She signed her name, each letter feeling like a betrayal of herself. Good. Marlene snatched the papers away before the ink was even dry. Now get out. It's Christmas night. Jennifer's voice cracked. It's snowing outside. I'm pregnant. Please, let me stay until morning. I'll leave first thing. I promise. You'll leave now. Callum spoke for the final time, his voice empty of all emotion. I can't stand to look at you for another second. Yvette walked to the front door and opened it wide. Cold air rushed in, carrying snowflakes that melted on the marble floor. The temperature had dropped below freezing, and the storm that had been threatening all day had finally arrived in full force. Wait. Jennifer looked down at her left hand, at the wedding ring that felt heavier than it had any right to. Do you want this back? Keep it. Marlene's lip curled. Sell it if you can. You'll need the money for when that bastard is born. Jennifer slid the ring off slowly, her finger feeling naked without it. She placed it carefully on the coffee table, refusing to throw it, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her bitter. I'll prove you wrong. Jennifer pulled on her coat, clutching the velvet box with her grandmother's bracelet. I'll prove that baby is Callum's. I'll prove I was faithful. And when I do, you'll regret this. We won't. Edgar's voice followed her as she walked toward the open door. Because we'll never think of you again. Jennifer stepped out into the snow, and the door slammed behind her with a finality that echoed in her bones. The cold hit her like a physical blow, wind cutting through her thin coat as if it weren't there at all. She stood on the front steps of the mansion, looking out at the long driveway that stretched toward the distant gates. The Christmas lights on the neighboring houses blurred through her tears. Families inside, warm and safe, celebrating while she stood in the snow with nothing. No phone, no money, no one to call for help. Just her and the baby and the bitter cold that was already seeping into her bones. She started walking, her shoes crunching in the fresh snow. Each step took her farther from the life she'd known and closer to an uncertain darkness. The wind howled around her, and she wrapped her arms around her stomach, trying to keep the baby warm even as her own teeth began to chatter. The gates were automated, thankfully, and they opened as she approached. Then she was through, standing on the public street, watching the gates close behind her with an electronic click that sounded like a prison door locking. Jennifer pulled her coat tighter and started walking down the street. She had no destination, no plan, just the desperate need to find shelter before hypothermia set in. Her mind kept replaying the scene in the living room, searching for the moment where everything had gone wrong, searching for something she could have said or done differently. But there was nothing. The trap had been set perfectly. The evidence manufactured. The family united against her. She'd never stood a chance. Her foot caught on something hidden under the snow, and she stumbled, barely catching herself against a lamppost. Pain shot through her ankle. She leaned against the cold metal, breathing hard, watching her breath form white clouds in the frozen air. She needed help. She needed to call someone. But her phone was gone, and she couldn't remember Sadia's number. Nobody memorized phone numbers anymore. They were all stored in devices, accessible with a touch, useless when those devices were taken away. A car drove past, its tires crunching on the snowy road, and Jennifer thought about flagging it down. But what would she say? What would they see? A pregnant black woman standing alone on a wealthy street on Christmas night. They'd probably call the police, and the Halbrooks had already made it clear what would happen if police got involved. She kept walking, each step harder than the last. Her ankle throbbed. Her hands were going numb despite being shoved deep in her pockets. The snow fell harder now, thick flakes that accumulated on her shoulders and in her hair. She should have asked for a hat. She should have asked for gloves. She should have demanded more than a coat and a bracelet. But she'd been in shock, her mind unable to process the speed of her destruction. One moment she'd been decorating for Christmas, hope for the baby making everything glow with possibility. The next she'd been accused, divorced, and discarded like trash. A coffee shop appeared ahead, its windows dark, its closed sign mocking her. Jennifer pressed her face against the glass anyway, looking at the empty chairs and tables, imagining the warmth that existed there during business hours. Her reflection stared back at her, and she barely recognized herself. Eyes swollen from crying, cheek red from Marlene's slap, defeat written across every feature. She pulled back and kept walking. Buildings passed in a blur. She turned corners without knowing where they led. Time became meaningless. There was only cold, exhaustion, and the growing fear that she might not survive the night. Her thoughts turned to the baby. If something happened to her, the baby died too. That innocent life, blameless and pure, would end because of lies and hatred and cruelty. The thought made her stumble again, and this time she fell, her knees hitting the icy sidewalk hard. Pain exploded through her legs. She tried to stand, but her body wouldn't cooperate. The cold had sapped her strength. The emotional trauma had drained her will. She knelt there in the snow, hands pressed against the frozen ground, and finally let herself cry properly. Great, heaving sobs that tore from her chest and echoed off the buildings. "Help me," she whispered to no one, to everyone, to God or the universe or whatever force might be listening. Please, someone help me. Her hand fumbled in her pocket, fingers closing around something she'd forgotten. A slip of paper. She pulled it out, squinting at it in the dim streetlight. A business card from weeks ago, from a woman she'd met at a prenatal yoga class. Sadia's friend who'd moved to New York recently. The card was bent and the ink slightly smudged, but she could make out a phone number. But she had no phone. The card was useless. Jennifer looked around desperately. There had to be a payphone somewhere. Did payphones even exist anymore? Her mind was foggy, thoughts moving like syrup. The cold was doing something to her brain, making it hard to think clearly. She stood on shaking legs and continued down the street. A bodega appeared, its lights on, the owner visible inside arranging items on shelves. Jennifer pushed through the door, a bell chiming overhead. The warmth hit her like a wall, so sudden and intense that it made her dizzy. She grabbed the edge of a shelf to steady herself. "Miss, are you okay?" The owner, an older man with kind eyes, came around the counter. "I need to make a call." Jennifer's voice sounded strange, slurred. "Please, do you have a phone I could use? Just one call. I'm begging you." The man looked at her, taking in her appearance, the snow melting in her hair, the way she swayed on her feet. "You need to sit down. You look like you're about to pass out. I just need a phone." Jennifer pulled out the business card, holding it with shaking fingers. "Please, I'm pregnant. I have nowhere to go. I just need to call someone." The owner guided her to a plastic chair near the register. "Sit. I'll call. Give me the number." Jennifer read it off the card, watching as he dialed on the store's landline. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Jennifer's heart sank with each ring. 4 times, 5 times. Then voicemail. A generic message. A beep. No answer. The owner hung up. "Is there someone else?" Jennifer shook her head. There was no one else. Sadia was in Chicago. Her family was in Nigeria. Every friend she'd had in New York had slowly disappeared over the past year, discouraged by Marlene's disapproval, made uncomfortable by the social gap between the Halbrooks and everyone else. "I'm going to call an ambulance." The owner reached for the phone again. "You need medical attention." "No." Jennifer grabbed his arm. "No ambulance. No hospitals. Please. They'll ask questions. They'll call people. I can't. I just can't." The owner looked conflicted, but he didn't dial. "You can't stay here. I close in 20 minutes. I know. I'll go. I just needed a moment." Jennifer forced herself to stand. "Thank you for trying." She walked back out into the cold, the brief warmth having made everything worse. Now she felt the freezing temperature even more acutely, her body shocked by the contrast. She'd walked maybe 3 more blocks when she realized she was lost. Nothing looked familiar. The snow had intensified, limiting visibility to just a few feet ahead. Jennifer's hand went to her stomach. The baby wasn't moving as much. Or maybe she just couldn't feel it through her own numbness. Terror seized her. What if the cold was hurting the baby? What if the stress was causing problems? What if she collapsed out here and no one found her until it was too late? She pulled the business card out again, staring at the number. On impulse, she started walking, looking for anything that might help. A library. A church. Another store. Something. A figure emerged from the snow ahead, and Jennifer's first instinct was fear. But as the person got closer, she saw it was just a teenager, hood up, headphones in, focused on his phone. "Excuse me." Jennifer's voice was barely audible over the wind. The teen didn't hear her. She reached out, touching his arm. He jumped, pulling out one earbud. What the hell, lady? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But please, I need help. I need to use a phone for just 1 minute. Please. I'm desperate. The teenager looked at her warily. You a cop? No. I'm just someone who needs help. Please. He looked around, then sighed and pulled out his phone, unlocking it and handing it to her. 1 minute. Then I'm gone. Jennifer took the phone with trembling hands and dialed the number from the card. Her fingers were so numb she hit the wrong buttons twice before getting it right. The phone rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Please, please, please. Hello. A woman's voice, groggy with sleep. I'm sorry to call so late. You don't know me. My name is Jennifer Akin. I met you at prenatal yoga. Your friend Sadia gave me your card. I'm in trouble. I don't know who else to call. Silence on the other end. Jennifer's heart sank. Then, where are you? I don't know. Somewhere in Manhattan. I'm lost. I'm in the snow. I was thrown out of my home. I'm pregnant. I have nowhere to go. More silence. The teenager shifted impatiently, reaching for his phone. Jennifer turned away, clutching it tighter. I'm sorry. The woman's voice was sympathetic but firm. I can't help you. I barely remember you, and I'm not in a position to take in strangers. I'm sorry about whatever happened, but you should call the police or a shelter. Please. Jennifer's voice broke. Please, I'll do anything. I'll work. I'll clean. I'll sleep on the floor. I just need somewhere warm for tonight. Just tonight. My baby. Please think about my baby. I'm sorry. I really am. But I can't. The line went dead. Jennifer stood there, the phone still pressed to her ear, listening to the dial tone. The teenager snatched it back. You done? He didn't wait for an answer, just shoved the phone in his pocket and walked away, disappearing into the snow within seconds. Jennifer sank down onto the cold ground, her back against a brick wall. This was it. This was how she died. Frozen on a New York street on Christmas night, her baby dying with her, all because of lies she couldn't fight and a family that had crushed her without remorse. She thought about her mother in Lagos, probably awake now, mourning in Nigeria. She'd be expecting Jennifer's usual Christmas call. She'd wait by the phone, excited to hear about the baby, about life in America. She'd never know what happened. Jennifer would just disappear, another immigrant who'd come to America chasing dreams and found only nightmares. Her phone. She needed a phone. Not to call anyone, but to text. Sadia would see a text eventually. When she checked her phone after Christmas dinner with her family. It might be hours from now, but at least it would be something. At least someone would know what happened. Jennifer forced herself to stand. She needed to find someone else with a phone. Someone who'd let her send just one text. That was all. One text to Sadia. Then she could find a doorway somewhere, curl up as tight as possible, and hope the cold took her mercifully quickly. She walked another block and found herself in a more commercial area. Restaurants with their security gates pulled down. A closed bank. A luxury gym. And there, on the corner, a young couple sharing a cigarette outside a bar. Jennifer approached them, trying to make herself look less desperate, less threatening. I'm so sorry to bother you. I've been robbed. They took my phone and wallet. I just need to send one text to let my friend know I'm okay. Could I borrow one of your phones? Just for 30 seconds. Please. The woman looked at the man, who shrugged. Yeah, all right. Make it quick though. He handed her his phone. Jennifer took it, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped it. She opened the messaging app and started typing a number. But what was Sadia's number? She'd called it 1,000 times, but it was always just pressing a name, not dialing digits. She stood there, phone in hand, mind blank. You okay? the woman asked, concern creeping into her voice. I can't remember the number. Jennifer felt tears streaming down her face again. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She handed the phone back and turned away, walking blindly. Behind her, she heard the woman say something to the man, their voices fading as distance grew between them. Jennifer's mind was fracturing. The cold was doing permanent damage now. She could feel it. Her thoughts weren't connecting properly. Time kept skipping. One moment she was on one street, the next she was somewhere completely different with no memory of how she got there. She pulled out her grandmother's bracelet from her pocket, the velvet box somehow still intact. She opened it, looking at the gold links, the small charms her grandmother had collected over a lifetime. A cross, a tiny bird, an elephant. The bracelet was the only thing connecting her to home, to family, to a time before everything went wrong. Jennifer's fingers fumbled with the clasp, and she put the bracelet on her wrist. If she was going to die tonight, she'd die wearing something that meant love. Something that represented family that had chosen her, not rejected her. She kept walking, barely aware of direction or purpose anymore. Her body was on autopilot, stumbling forward because stopping meant dying. Buildings passed. Cars passed. Time passed. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe she'd been walking for 5 minutes or 5 hours. She couldn't tell anymore. A phone. She needed a phone. The thought circled in her mind like a broken record. She needed to text Cydia. But every time she tried to approach someone, the words wouldn't come. Her mouth wouldn't form sentences. She'd just stand there, swaying, until they walked away uncomfortably. Jennifer found herself in front of a church, its steps leading up to massive wooden doors. She climbed them slowly, each step an enormous effort. At the top, she tried the doors. Locked. Of course they were locked. Everything was locked. Everything was closed. Everything was impossible. She sat down on the top step, tucked into the corner where 2 walls met, trying to block the wind. Her coat was soaked through now, offering no warmth at all. She pulled her knees up as much as her pregnancy would allow, wrapped her arms around herself, and closed her eyes. The baby kicked weakly, one last reminder of the life depending on her. Jennifer's hand moved to her stomach, and she whispered into the wind. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. I tried. I swear I tried. You deserved better than this. You deserved better than me. Her mind drifted to Callum,